like, I don't have enough with you ghetto black people. Y'all need organization, y'all need structure, and you don't have it. I work too hard. I'm not the one who's lost my mind. Shirley was like, pause. Follow me to the back.
Hey y'all, welcome to Conscious Cousin TV. It is your conscious cousin, Jamia B, here entertaining, elevating, and educating my people. So let's get into it. Okay, y'all, first things first, we have press play. This week has been quite a start. There was quite a start to this week. We'll get into the details of it later, but I dropped my last video on Saturday. Next thing you know, Sunday, Biden drops out of the 2024 presidential race, and he endorses Kamala Harris as the next Democratic nominee for president of the United States. So in light of all this, I decided to go watch the recently released film by Regina and Raina King on Shirley Chisholm, the woman who is known as the first Black woman to run for president as a part of a major party, which was the Democratic ticket. Now, I do want to say that she was not the first Black woman ever to run. The first Black woman ever to run was Charlene Mitchell. She ran under the Communist Party ticket in 1968, which was also the year that Shirley Chisholm was elected into Congress. So let's get into my review of this movie, because everything that's going on, it just kind of reminded me of it, and I'm just like, what better time than now? So let's go. So Shirley Chisholm, who is played by the Regina King, she is a school teacher from Brooklyn. And the year that she decides to run for public office is 1968, which at the time, Congress looked something like this. These were the stats that were provided at the beginning of the film. 435 elected Congress people. 11 of those were women, and 5 of those were Black. 5 of the entire were Black, but there were no Black women amongst them. Intersectionality, that's something that was lacking, but it was something Shirley had to offer, being both Black and a woman, a racial and a gender minority. We are then taken to like a neighborhood in New York City, Brooklyn in particular. Not New York City, but in New York, Brooklyn in particular, which is the district she has been elected to serve. And there you see people of all ages. You see grandmas, aunties, uncles, kids, babies, like everybody is there. The Black community is present. The Hispanic community is present. Latinx community is present. And there we just see how she is a relator, like how she is relating to the people, how she is with them. She's just not there presiding over them. She is being with the people in her community. I was not aware of this. I learned that she is fluent in Spanish. She's talking with Puerto Rican immigrants and with ease. That's a fun fact that I didn't know. One thing I also noticed, going back to the culture piece, like how the demographics are blended as far as age and nationality and race. Her husband, he clearly speaks with an accent, Caribbean. He is from Jamaica, which is also a way that she could relate to, which is also the way that she could relate to the people. And later in the movie, we also find out that she is Bajan. So Shirley was really that girl for them girls, if that makes sense. Like, she's really here for everybody, and I love that. We are then taken to her first week in Congress, where she She is, we're given cues that she has been approached by this white man every day for about a week. And he is clearly bothered by her simply just being there. And he's just befuddled at the idea. He's sick to his stomach that she could be making, quote, 42.5 like him. You know what I'm saying? She basically told him, baby, you just gonna have to deal with it, okay? Because she's there for a reason. She got a point to prove, and she's here to serve her people. Like, she didn't come just to come. She came to show up and do the job, okay? So then she's approached by a brother, right, who sort of is like coming to her as a courtesy and is giving her a heads up about being assigned to the agricultural committee when she serves a concrete jungle. Remember, y'all, she was elected to represent Brooklyn, New York. What is she gonna do in agriculture? She's not in upstate New York. She's in Brooklyn, New York. So I took it that he did it as a way to like stifle a strong reaction she might have, and if like she heard this for the first time in front of her like white colleagues. But it was unhelpful, because he not only came with that agenda, he came to tell her to like suck it up and to accept what it was. And that's just not Shirley. Clearly, he told her, you don't talk to the Speaker of the House. She gives a look of like, oh, I'll see about that, right? And that's exactly what she goes and does. She goes to speak to the Speaker of the House. That's point blank period. And told him to basically make it make sense. The math is not mathing. And he tells her to fall in line and threatens her job, basically. So she obviously takes this home and vented to her husband about it. And he kind of feels similarly to the brother who approached her at the beginning. Who is it, Ron? I believe it's Ron, who gave her the heads up. And he's just like, just wait your turn. Wait your turn. But she's like, why would I wait when somebody like Nixon is in office? This is an urgent matter. We don't even have the time. The time is now. There is no time to wait. She got her way in the end and was removed from that committee. And presumably placed on the Veterans Committee as she requested. We are then introduced to a couple of characters. Mac, who is Shirley's advisor, and then Arthur, who is not clearly, like, his role is not clearly defined. He just comes alongside Mac, which is, they just seem like a package deal, right? People began to ask Shirley, like, oh my gosh, when are you running for president, right? And it was really nothing she had ever considered before. But they tell people, okay, if we can raise $5,000, we will do a presidential campaign, right? We'll put ourselves on the ticket. These people donate $10,000 towards a $5,000 goal. And what is Shirley to do? Of course, she has to do it. And Mac, in light of all this, he's trying to prepare her for a loss, but she insists that she is qualified. The only thing that would stop her is being both black and a woman. But other than that, she's asking, like, what is there to stop me? Why couldn't I be president? You know, why not? So So that's her urging them to, like, you know, to not be dismayed, and that even though we know how this country is, being misogynistic and racist, she thinks that this is a good idea. They can put up a good fight and potentially win, right? So they're like, all right. And then funding becomes the next concern. And that's when she tells them, like, listen, when I go to these colleges, when I speak at these events, white boys come running to me asking me when I'm gonna be on the ticket. When I have white boys asking me when I'm gonna be on the ticket, don't ask me how it's gonna get paid. Okay? So they like, all right, and everybody falls in line. They get on board with the idea. Shirley reaches out to a former congressional aide by the name of Robert Gottlieb, and she appoints him as her national student coordinator. You can tell, like, their relationship, like, he is truly inspired by this woman. She dropped so many gems in that one scene, right? Because he was kind of hesitant about taking on the role himself. He was like, well, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I'm in law school, I'm only 21. And she was like, well, you can go fight in the war, can't you? And he was like, well, I can't, huh? I can't. Yeah, you can. So why can't you work for this campaign? And she was just, like I said, so encouraging. She said, don't be humble. Humility in successful people comes off as its own kind of arrogance. I said, drop the mic. What? Okay. Humility in successful people comes off as its own kind of arrogance, because we all know what you have achieved, right? We all know what's been achieved by you. So you trying to be humble is essentially you lowering yourself to make me feel good, which means you ultimately believe that you are in some way, shape, or form better or higher than me. I'm like, that's a word, because people will say humility is the answer. That don't mean be arrogant, but you do have to be confident and stand on what you know, because humility will always come off as like pacifying or dumbing yourself down to fit with the status quo. So I'm like, whoo, I needed that one. The same year that she is deciding to run for office, 18-year-olds can now vote for the first time. And I'm like, whoa. Which is also why Robert, it would be like a key component in this equation, as her student coordinator, somebody who is specifically devoted to winning over the youth. He just has big shoes to fill. This is monumental. It's historical, right? Everything about this campaign. After this scene, we see Shirley for the second time slurping in a McDonald's cup. I'm like, what is the significance of the McDonald's cup? But later it's just either it's a sponsorship or she really liked them strawberry shakes. I don't know. But her whole MO in running is quite simple. Is to give politics back to the people. People tried to question her. She was like, no, it's really that simple. I want to give politics back to the people. She wasn't trying to stuff nobody's ears with fluff. She was just like, no, this is my goal, right? And there's a way to do it. There are different ways that we're going to take to do it, but ultimately that is the goal. Every action I take, everything that I align myself with is going to be with the purpose of giving politics back to the people. So as she announces her presidential campaign, Her motto is unbought and unbossed. Unbought and unbossed. That also, as a black woman in the United States of America, she's also unbacked. So she's unbought, unbossed, and unbacked because she has not, she's basically doing it herself. Of course, she has a personal team, but in the media and in the public, she has essentially no endorsements from celebrities or other politicians. It's just her. One of the first speeches that she gives, she says, "The will of each of us is just as precious as the will of the most powerful of us." And that was the quote that kind of like shook the room, because like I said, I can see how this movie even translates to today. Like the policies that are trying to be passed, it is all for the betterment of a system that will essentially keep the elite and remove access from those who are further down on that ladder. That's not right. That's not serving the people. But I think it's so crazy that still resonates today. That was 1972. It's 2024. Is that almost 50 years? That 50 years? 80, 90, 12. 52 years ago, and those same sentiments still have to be said to this day. The will of each of us is just as precious as the will of the most powerful of us. Don't let them fool you. Okay? So, eventually, Ron, the same brother who approaches her at the beginning of the movie, he comes out and he endorses her presidential campaign. So we have Ron Dellums of Oakland, California for Shirley, and it's like, man, he really be looking out. Like, this black man is really looking out for this sister, right? But along with this, we also have no one else. She's like, where are the white women that I showed up for? These so-called feminists, right? They are on their platforms questioning her decision to even run, and not even like, okay, taking a moment to, I guess, like interview her, come to her themselves, but they're instead broadcasting their doubts, right? And that's the difference between feminism and womanism. The suffragist movement, for example, like when women gained the right to vote, black women were in those lines too. They were fighting those fights, but they did not get the right to vote at the same time that white women obtained the right to vote. They put the blacks in the back, okay? They put us in the back. And so I think the idea of femininity sometimes in this society does go hand in hand with whiteness, unfortunately, although that is not true. It is an inaccurate perception. But to be womanist is to understand, to advocate for intersectionality, like being a woman while also being black or queer or anything. Womanism is just understanding other factors that contribute to your experience as a woman, right? But that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. We are then taken to, like, I think a college campus where she encounters this young lady with an afro, beautiful young lady, intelligent young lady who clearly has a passion for the work that is being done. And Shirley it's like her mind starts moving. The wheels start turning for her, right? And she gets the idea that this woman should join her campaign, right? And the lady is like, I can't do that. First of all, I'm a single mom and I have other obligations, right? Well, and Shirley's like, well, you don't have to do it full time. We can take you on for a part-time and you work when you can, right? And she doesn't have like a clearly defined role, but she just comes to support. Is basically the idea that Shirley has to give her this experience to motivate her, because this young lady also felt that she could not do politics. She's like, no, that's not for me. She felt differently. She felt like a different approach was better. She's like, black women can't do politics like that. We can't win in that game. And Shirley looking at her like, well, what am I doing, right? She's like, so what am I doing? And the girl is looking at her like, I guess, but she says, you're different. She said, no ma'am, I'm not different. I'm not no different than you. I saw what needed to be done and I did that. I did what was necessary. We are then introduced to Governor George Wallace, who is a devout racist, anti-liberal, and yeah, we see his campaigning and media moments broadcast all over television here and there, and he is basically positioned as Shirley's opponent, right? So they're prepping Shirley for like these different, I guess, like rallies and media moments, and she's giving her real raw uncut answers. Like, she's being true. Like I said, she's very simple. They hired this guy to basically help her with this campaign as well, and they're telling her, oh, you can't say that, it's too much nuance, da 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 da. But it's like, she's like, first of all, I don't like the word can't. Don't tell me what I can and can't do. And they told her that it was too much nuance. And the issues that they were talking about were abortion, busing as an integration strategy. And she's like, no, I'm not leaving out the nuance, because that's what it is. That is real life. That's human experience. I feel this way, and there's nuances to that, hence why I answered it in that way. She felt that busing as a integration strategy, she was like, I don't agree with it. I agree with integration, but this strategy in particular, it's an artificial solution. We're not really getting to the root of the issue. And they were just afraid of how she might be perceived in just saying that, or how she could lose voters. Like, as a black woman, she has to watch every single thing that she says, because anything that comes out of her mouth is automatically with those filters, being both black and a woman, right? So the National Black Political Convention is being held in Gary, Indiana, and they're basically debating about whether or not she should go. And in these times of like uncertainty and decision-making processes, excuse me, we see Arthur consistently being the one to like, hey, let her eat her lunch, give her a break, let her think about it, you know. And I said, who is Arthur that he want to make sure this lady eat? I said, who is he? But I remember having looked her up before. She had been married twice, right? She had been married twice. And I said, wait a minute, is Arthur her second husband? So I hit the Googler. You know I did. And yes, indeed, sure enough, Arthur, the lady's second husband. We are still being taken on this campaign trail with Shirley, and she's talking or some other, and next thing you know, this white man come out of nowhere with a knife, yelling yelling expletives at her, about to stab this lady. And they like grab her and grab him, and oh child, it was just like the most random thing ever. She is at home, of course, shaking, and her husband comes in the door. At this time she's still with Conrad, her first husband, and in her deciding that she was gonna run for president, the first thing she said was Conrad will be head of security, right? So she's like, where were you? Like, you wasn't securing. Security wasn't securing nothing, right? Him not doing his job in that moment almost cost her life. In the movie, it was portrayed as he was trying to capture a moment, like be a photographer rather than like security in that moment. But which was important, but you got to think about like what takes priority. If you want somebody to take pictures for you, appoint somebody to take the pictures, because we can't lack in that area, because like I said, it ultimately almost cost her life. He goes and gives this whole spiel saying he tries his best to be the man she want him to be. What he said? Attentive, mindful, but out of the way and off to the side. Sounds like animosity. Like, that's not what you want to do. He said he does this and he does it happily because he knows how important it is for her, and basically the end goal, like the good that she can do in pursuing this anyway. And so he like, oh, I'll settle for being your shadow. And he's like, and for whatever reason, you want a shadow of a man anyway. Huh? You want a shadow of a man anyway. And I quote, don't get upset with me when I'm doing... I'm sorry. It don't make sense. Let me get it out. Don't get upset with me when I'm a little too good at it. Excuse me? I almost died. Don't get upset with you when you a little too good at being a shadow. You ain't gonna have no shadow in a minute. Keep playing. Don't get upset with me when I'm a little too good at it. First of all, your wife almost lost her life. Insecurity is loud in this moment. The insecurity is loud. Like, what? So after this conflict, we are taken to this couple's interview that they do for whatever thing, and it's so awkward, and they like kind of hold hands for a moment, and as soon as the interview is over, they like pull away. I'm just like, okay. Okay. So these next parts was a little confusing upon the first watch. It was like she agreed to step down in DC in exchange for Walter Fauntleroy's delegates after the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, right? And I'm just like, First of all, Fauntleroy was positioned as a snake from the beginning, yet she like agreed to this. He gave her his word and she took it, you know? We also find out that Shirley doesn't get scheduled for she doesn't get scheduled for the televised debates on any network because they don't want to broadcast her. Like I said, people have already publicly proclaimed that they do not believe in this campaign. Like, there's no faith in it, so they don't even want to put her up there, right? And her response, she said, sue them, right? Because Shirley ain't never been the type to just accept what it was for what it was. You get what I'm saying? People be like, it is what it is, and that's what it's gonna be. Shirley's like, no ma'am, no sirree. Okay? They like, okay, but we're drowning in campaign funds, like these expenses. And they look at Robert and they're like, but you in law school, ain't I? We could use that. We see Robert getting some advice from, I guess, other law professionals, and they basically tell him either you win and gain it all or lose and lose everything, right? It's all or nothing with this thing. Y'all are suing on the basis of discrimination. Just make sure that you can back it up. The next thing I want to talk about is the meeting she has with her sister. We're back at the sister. Remember in the beginning I said she seemed kind of envious, but for what, we did not know. In this scene, it is revealed. So Shirley is waiting at this restaurant called Roti, which is a nod to the Caribbean. Her sister walks in and sits down, and Shirley basically asks her to publicly show her support for her presidential campaign. And the sister is like, what's understood don't need to be explained, right? And that's like the classic excuse for, no, I don't support you. Basically, I'm not finna lie. If we're gonna be real. That's basically what she said. And then as they keep talking, the real feelings come to surface, right? Her sister, whose name is Muriel, says that she's humiliating and that people call her crazy for even having the gall to do something like this. She starts talking about their dad. She's like, oh, he raised you differently. It's his fault. There were 4 of us and you were the only one he left money to, and now you think you special. And she's like, so no, I'm not gonna endorse you publicly. I'm not gonna support you. I'm not gonna tell these people that I believe in what you're doing, because I don't. And what about it? So she leaves, and Shirley is just sitting there like, wow. So Stanley, in the middle of them fundraising, people's money had been stolen because of the way that they was doing it. It wasn't like a clearly organized fundraising. It was like hood fundraising, but the money was getting raised. It was small donations, but a lot of small donations. But at the same time, as the money was getting raised, it was also getting stolen at the same time. So he was just like, I done had enough with you ghetto black people. Y'all need organization. Y'all need structure. And you don't have it. I'm tired of this, Grandpa. I'm not gonna get in this field all day for nothing, okay? I work too hard. I'm not the one who's lost my mind, okay? That's basically what he said. He put a Lillian on us, right? And Shirley was like, pause. Follow me to the back. She said, who do you think you talking to like that? Who you think you talking to? Huh? You will not talk to my team that way. If you can't get on board, jump ship. Get out. Right? That's basically what she said. Arthur, he like consistently has her back. He's like, what do you want to do? Whatever you want to do, I'm behind. Like, you want to quit this? We in it together. Like, what do you want to do? What does Shirley want to do? Either you're going to get up and keep going, or shut up all that complaining and quit. But you're not going to mope around here and talk about y'all. What you going to do, Shirley? What do you want to do? And at this moment, she's like, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to press forward, right? In her pressing forward, the craziest thing happens. George Wallace, this racist man, he gets shot. She walking down the street with Robert, and police come out of nowhere like, hey, what are you doing to her? Like, first of all, she a black woman, he a young white male. They like, get away from her, get away from him. She was like, no, he is with me. He works with me. What are you telling him to get away from me for? They's like, they just shot George Wallace. They're like, what? And you see different things on TV about who going to go visit him. And basically they report that he is alive, but he is in critical condition right now. Shirley decides that she wants to go see this man in the hospital, and Mac is not having it. He like, you got to be kidding me, right? First of all, this man is racist as all get out. He ain't nothing but a bigot. And you want to go see him? That's crazy. And then secondly, what are the voters going to think, right? What are the black people going to think when they find out that you visited the George Wallace? Oh, okay. She goes anyway, and he tells her, like, I live, but I'm gonna be paralyzed for the rest of my life, right? And she gets him a good little talking to, and she's like, well, if you keep doing things the way that you've been doing, God might not be so gracious and merciful the next time. You just might drop dead, right? So she essentially plants that seed of, this was your warning. You not living right. Repent and turn away from your wicked ways. You get what I'm saying? So she prayed for him, and as Max said, just like Max said, the black community finds out because it's broadcast on the news that she went, and they're discouraged. Like, man, she's supposed to be black. How's she gonna go visit this racist man, right? It's not amplified that much, but she's like, baby, I'm a Christian first. This is what I feel led to do, and I'm gonna do it, right? They win the case against the networks, and she is awarded a 30-minute slot all to herself. So basically not even a debate, but she basically gets to like have her own little mini conference or convention. And that was such a big win for not only Shirley but for Robert, who was not even officially a lawyer yet. Yet he had beat these major networks, and they were like they called them the big three. So these are people that run the industry. So that was like monumental. Barbara is like constantly urging Shirley to like, okay, baby, we got to get in with the Black Panther Party. They have never endorsed anybody publicly, so let's get in with them so that we can win over black people, especially after this whole George Wallace incident. And she get on the phone with him, with the, I guess he's like a leader in California, because they want to win over. This whole time they've been trying to decide if they wanted to even campaign in California, because it's a winner take all state, right? A winner gets all the delegates. Whoever has the most gets all the delegates. And so she talked to him. Barbara talked to him. She arranges a meeting, and he's like, okay, we can talk. I'll sit with Shirley, but it has to be on neutral ground. And neutral ground just so happens to be the Diane Carroll's house. The actress Diane Carroll. And Shirley was like, Diane Carroll? I'm like, Diane Carroll? And then Barbara like, yeah, she don't play when it comes to civil rights, honey. Period. Shirley is at Diane Carroll's house, and she talks about her experience as a first black woman to do. It's a lot of weight that comes with that. That's the conversation they're having. And Huey, the leader of the Black Panther Party, comes, and he's like basically telling her to convince him as to why they should endorse her, right? As he should, asking the real questions. And she basically says, we need to infiltrate the system, right, in order to change it. And he was like, you're right. Like, you might be right. That's not the only thing we have to do, but that is essential if we're gonna overtake this thing and really do it how we want to do it. And he's like, okay, but tell me this, how's an old school teacher from Brooklyn gonna do it? And she's like, yeah, I was just a school teacher, but Harriet was just a slave, and Rosa was just a domestic. And he said, hi, what? Huh? Oh, okay, drop the mic. Because, yeah, What they got to do with it? Please. And so they go on to endorse Shirley, but she still ended up losing the state. This is shortly before the DNC, like less than or equal to a month before the Democratic National Convention. And they set up a meeting with Massey's team, and they are talking to her about the delegates, like winning over to get the delegates. Like, her ranking fourth should mean something. Those are millions of people whose votes did not get counted in a state as big as California. That is unfathomable that millions and millions of votes did not get counted. They decide to challenge that law, but Shirley is like, this has always been what it was. Like, we knew that when we went into it, like, winner take all. But it was like, but it doesn't have to be. And it was like, okay. I'm like, okay, this Shirley's speed. It don't have to be, right? They work something out, and she is winning over the black delegates in Miami. She is being gifted the delegates from Husky and Humphrey. There was a goal, I believe, of like 1,500, and it's being televised. Like, oh my God, like all these delegates are like coming out of nowhere. Like, we're doing it, right? They're having this high celebratory moment. Muriel, she finally come around to the idea. They on the phone, and she's like, her and her mama are watching TV, and she's like, oh my gosh, like, you're doing it. Like, you're doing it. Like, you're doing it. Like, oh my gosh, like, I'm proud of you. I love you. And things like that, right? Basically, she's like, you proved me wrong. I don't know if she said those words exactly, but essentially that's what the vibe was given. Like, I was wrong. I should have believed in you. And she was like, oh, you are special. That was like a beautiful moment. And Fauntleroy, we're back at Fauntleroy Walter, who gave Shirley his word. When the time came to hand over those delegates, he didn't give them to her. He instead gave them to the opposition, which, well, not opposition per se, because he was a part of the Democratic Party as well, but he was it was, at this point, it was between him and Shirley, the delegates, right? Fauntleroy was supposed to be giving his to Shirley, and some of the delegates from California was supposed to be taken away from McGovern because of the reworking of it all. They were counting on Fauntleroy's delegates, but upon the news that they had been given to McGovern, it was like the ultimate buzzkill. Like, the energy just died, because those were literally delegates they were counting on. And then the next thing they know, Ron Dellums, the brother who had been having her back through it all, he done met down with McGovern and basically got sold. Got sold to the highest bidder, and went on TV, not even talking to Shirley, not answering the phone, not coming to see her, not talking to her, none of that. Got on TV talking about ignore the dreamers and the fools. Excuse me? Ignore the dreamers and the fools. And to basically vote for McGovern. Okay. Thought you had my back. Okay. Shirley, of course, is feeling defeated, because this man, this brother who has always had her back, who claimed to be on her side, who was the very first person and politician to endorse her publicly, went back behind her and called her a fool, and just reduced her to simply a dreamer, as if what she was going for could never be. And that was the most insulting thing. But she extended him grace, which is better than I could have done, which is better than I can do right here today in this moment. Her extending grace to Dellums, I wrote, is like the telltale story of so many black women in the US of A. We have to be understanding rather than being able to hold people accountable, like to a moral code to which they themselves claim to abide by. You get what I'm saying? And to me, it should be simple. Like, we shouldn't have to cave on those standards, because it's called character. Either you have it or you don't. She said she felt that she owed him forgiveness. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I'm not a believer in forgiveness being for anybody other than yourself. But for you to say you owe him anything, which is beyond me. And whether or not that's the Christian thing to do, I don't know. God is still doing the work in me. Like I said, it's better than I could have done and could do right now. So that was basically the end of the movie, y'all. We are giving like updates to so yeah, I'm back. We are giving, like, you know, the little updates at the end of the movie before the credits start rolling. Barbara Lee, in 1998, she was elected to serve California's 9th district. She is also currently, right now in 2024, the highest ranking black woman in Democratic leadership in Congress. Period, Barbara. Okay. Mark, he became a mentor to the first black mayor of New York City. Ron, the backstabber, became the mayor of Oakland, and they say he and Shirley remain friends. Couldn't have been my friend, but hey, who are me? Robert, he finished law school and started his own firm, Wallace, the Races. He raised funds for Shirley. So I guess that talking to did some good. As a congresswoman, Shirley did not stop after this presidential campaign. She continued to serve inner city residents, veterans, immigrants, refugees, and the like. She was a phenomenal woman, and I highly recommend y'all go watching it. It was a lot. I basically walked y'all through the whole movie. Go watch it. The whole reason why I watched the movie was because of the endorsement of Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee for president. And we about to get into that right now. Ciao. So how about Joe Biden then step down out of the presidential race? It is July, dang near August. Election is in November. DNC is next month, I believe. And he drops out of the race. Now, in my last video, I was saying how I was initially behind the idea that he should, and then I wasn't so sure if he should, but people felt like it was coming very, 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 very soon, and that he did, right? Because next day, he was out of there. Not gonna lie, I was still kind of like, can she win? Like, would she really be able to win? And it wasn't a question of like what she can do. No, never that. It was a question of, it was the question of whether or not America was ready for this black woman. And I say that as a black woman, as a young black woman who experienced this just in the workforce. No matter how kind you are, how performative you are, how good you are, how you excel. It's just, for some reason, people don't like it. You might say I talk too much, but I'm gonna tell the truth. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but I'm just saying, I know that as a black woman who was in leadership in my career, so imagine being the president of the United States of America. That is a racist country. It's just like, are we ready? And that's just not to say that it's the racist. Black people are included in that. We have internalized so much racist ideology that we project it onto each other all the time. We hold each other under that microscope. We view each other through that lens, operating under the white gaze. But I say all of that to say she is endorsed by Joe Biden shortly after he announces that he is dropping out. Following that, she's also endorsed by some other big wigs in politics, the Clintons, and of course the Republicans are pissed. They're pissed. And Trump is on X, tweeting his life away, calling her all kinds of dumb and this, that, and the third. And it's just like, oh my gosh. Like, the Republican outrage is definitely up there. I mean, what did we expect? They're starting to scramble and question, like, can they even do this? Yes, we can. Sure can. And we doing it, girl. We did it, Joe. We did it. The girls are shaking in their boots. They're not even talking about policy at this point. They're just attacking her as a person. And it's just like, be so for real. Be so for real. This is just showing me that they're clearly threatened. And for good reason. Like I said, I was doubtful, but y'all are showing me on social media that y'all actually got some sense. Well, look at her having sense and whatnot. It's just like, we might have something here, but that doesn't say that she is our savior. She is not our savior. We have to hold her feet to the fire. Just the same. Black woman or not. Black women or not, your feet are getting held to the fire. These are critical times. There is a genocide going on in Palestine. There are attacks on policy here. Like, come on now. Congo, Sudan. What can we do to help these nations? Okay. So I love the fact that people are showing up better than I thought they would. Of course, you have a few ignorant people in the comments who don't know what they're talking about. A lot of people are in the comments talking about who she was as a prosecutor and putting black men in jail for weed and this, and that. Apparently, that's been dispelled. She has not sent nobody to jail for weed. She didn't even deal with those cases, apparently. And when I was watching one of her clips, it was saying that, first of all, the thing that drove her to becoming, like, that motivated her to become a prosecutor was her best friend being actually assaulted by her stepfather when they were in high school. So I'm thinking those are the cases that she was mainly representing. I have to look more into that myself, like where these things are coming from. They're saying this is a myth that was pumped out amidst the 2020 election when she was running then. They're also concerned about her, like I said, continuing to fund the genocide and remaining allies with Israel because her husband is Jewish and he is being called a Zionist. I don't know why, but that's what the sources are saying. And they just want to hold her accountable in that way. Like, baby, you're not gonna get in here and do what Joe did and thinking you're gonna get off scot-free. It's not gonna work like that. She did pull away from some event, and that's giving people hope that she is distancing from Israel and taking a stance to free Palestine. But no, y'all, let's talk about Prophetess Amanda Seales. Amanda said 30 weeks ago that Joe Biden is not going to be the Democratic nominee. How you knew? Who told you? Amanda. How you know? Amanda be tapped in, y'all. Amanda be tapped in. I love it. I love it. Prophetess Amanda Seales in the building. Okay. Another thing I also talked about in my last video was the murder of SONYA Massey in Springfield, Illinois. And I had been seeing an influx of posts about her on my page today. And I'm like, are they just now finding out about this? Like, what's going on? But no, guys. Today was different because the body cam footage of the incident at SONYA Massey's house was released. And it's heartbreaking because the entire interaction was so stupid. This pig was so freaking chicken. He made an excuse. He needed an excuse to wild out. So that's what he did. And he tried to justify it. And his partner is dumb too. He's like, I wasn't gonna take a pot of boiling hot water to the face. She wasn't about to throw it at you, you nut. Like, what is the training? What is the training? And he just kept repeating that, like, well, what else were we gonna do? Like, what else were we gonna do? Like, that water almost came to her. She wasn't about to throw it. The thing she said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. You tried to make it seem like she threatened you. You're like, what? I dare you to. I dare you to. And you pull out your gun. And she's like, immediately, like, I'm sorry. And she ducks. And you shoot her. She literally falls to the ground to duck. And you shoot her like the freaking nutcase you are for no good doggone reason. Excuse me, y'all. That was intense. But it really was the saddest thing. Cause it did not make sense, and he tried to make it make sense so bad. And I hope that partner gets some consequences too. Cause where was the correction? Where was? Oh, you pull out your gun too. You don't even know why he's scared. You lost. We lost. Everybody lost. And you just following the leader. Blindly. Mindlessly. Make it make sense. But yeah, y'all. I just kept seeing a lot of posts that was saying, take care of you today. Protect your mental. And I'm just like, oh, this is scary. Like, we hear about these stories all the time, and it just never ceases to baffle me. And I saw a post that says they're trying to desensitize us to our murders, but it'll never happen. It'll never happen. We see ourselves, we see our families in these killings, and it's not okay. Like, and more than just that, we see people, you question her about meds and stuff. That's not why you're here. You're here to see if there was a freaking robber or an intruder nearby. You ain't see one. Go about your business. Have a great day. You coming all in her house. What is wrong with you? Ugh. The same statements have been made surrounding like Kamala's bid for presidency. Like, take care of yourself, protect your mental health, pour into you, affirm you, rest, stay away from social media. But it's just like, we have to prepare for the fight ahead. All of this stuff is the dilemma that we face as Black women, of having to shield ourselves, but also be the ones to charge forward with a mighty force. Even though we are the ones who will be most affected from now until November with this presidential race. We are affected now upon seeing the killing of our sister, SONYA Massey. Man, we are not the mules of this country. Find you a donkey somewhere, tied up, like Jesus said, because that's your savior, not Black women. That takes me to half the battle. This is about having confidence in who you are. We cannot simply be reduced to the ground workers of the society. We are revolutionary, yes indeed we are, but that is not all we are. We are not the shields. We are people who need protecting often. As a collective, I feel that we constantly are pouring into this country and sowing in hopes that we'll reap a harvest that we have yet to see in comparison to what we've given. Like, as a collective, Black women have not even seen a fraction of what we've given to this country. Every day we have to prove ourselves worthy of a fight, hoping that someone will not only believe it, but stand beside us and fight with as much devotion, passion, conviction, and zeal as we do. But as time has gone on, being nice just ain't cut it. It just hasn't cut it. We are standing on business and leveraging the fact that each election year, we are a demographic that drives the needle. And this year is no different. We are a demographic that not only steers us away from harmful policy that is outlined in Project 2025, but also we are a demographic that truly revolutionizes. Just say we win. We should not have to do this again anytime soon, so long as we do it right. And by right, I mean actively, relentlessly, and strategically pursuing and demanding better from our leadership. I know we're all waiting for a moment to exhale, but I like to think about it as like when you sing in a choir and you're like holding a note, right? You can't all take a breath at the same time. We cannot all take a breath at the same time. There should be the illusion that the note was held together, no one having dropped out, when really we took turns holding each other down. That's true community. That's true community. So I feel like we should be encouraged today more than anything. It's easy to be sad. Joy is an act of resistance. Yeah. Joy is an act of resistance. Be encouraged today, for God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but one of love, power, and self-discipline. And not only that, but we are indeed fearfully and wonderfully made. We are straight from the Most High God, created with reverence and divine intention So we are fully equipped to conquer whatever we are faced with and come out better on the other side. Yeah, y'all. That's the show. I hope y'all enjoyed. This was Conscious Cousin TV. I am Jamia B. Choose joy today, y'all. Peace.